doctor's a drug dealer, man. He's not a clinician.
Or cancers are moving into the children, and we just keep labeling people as either bad luck or, oh, you've got it in your family.
I was never actually depressed, but I was diagnosed with depression because it was a symptom I was experiencing from a highly inflamed dysfunctional gut.
Do you have gut issues, and specifically IBD, inflammatory bowel disorder, Crohn's disease, or colitis? If you do, you might have been told that there's no known cause for these gut issues and that healing them is pretty much impossible. If you've been the recipient of any of these diagnoses, or even simply had a terrible diet for many years, which means that the possibility of developing some level of gut problem is high, then today's conversation is for you because it will inject a lot of hope and also actual solutions, because I speak with a chronic gut disease expert of the holistic kind that rejects many of the ideas of mainstream medicine put forward in this gastroenterology space. And he's able to back it up because he's helped to reverse 300 cases of Crohn's disease and colitis. He's also now a physician's consultant and lectures medical doctors on his work, aiming to bring people up to speed with what can be done to heal these complex gut health issues naturally. There's a lot of aligned content in here, and it's absolutely worth listening to. So let's dive in. What's up, my healthy friends? Thanks for hanging out here on another episode of the How to Not Get Sick and Die podcast. And something I want to say quickly is thank you for the support. I did an episode recently, episode 446, about controversial health topics. And off the back of that, we've had some amazing support, reviews, and 5-star ratings and comments on our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you can listen to this show. So thank you for being such an amazing support and just to help this keep going and moving forward. Without you, it wouldn't be possible. So gratitude from me to you. So whilst we're here as well, this year, it's my mission to support 500 people to achieve real weight loss. And by real, I mean dealing with what's really weighing you down and not just the number on your scale. So if you need to work on weight, but you know that emotional binge and overeating is a part of that problem, then scroll to the show notes below. Click the link to chat with me or my team to see if we can help out. All right, today we're talking about guts and butts. We've got JOSH DECH here coming from the gut disease capital of the world over in the North Americas. This man is an expert on, well, I guess plenty of things, to be totally honest. And he used to work in the medical system as a paramedic. And maybe similar to me, after seeing too many people go back again and again and again to hospital, he changed his focus to help people at the root cause of their issues. And Josh is really known for being one of the best guys to see when it comes to reversing Crohn's disease, colitis, and severe IBS and IBD. Josh, man, welcome to the show.
Wow, Matty, what an intro, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you here because so many people get diagnosed with IBS and IBD in North America and Australia and the UK, and all of the Western world countries are really, they're not that far behind. And possibly we share a similar opinion on this, and my thought is that it's quite a lazy diagnosis by doctors to call it IBS or IBD. And look, maybe they're just the limitations of the medical system. But for context's sake, can you describe exactly what is and what are the differences between Crohn's disease, colitis, and inflammatory bowel disease?
Absolutely. I think it's a great place to start. So I'm actually up in Canada, just north of the United States. It's kind of same. We used to be so different in terms of health and regulations and illnesses. But over the years, especially the last 10, 20 years, we've really just amalgamated. We're actually getting just as sick, catching up and surpassing the USA in bowel issues and other things in some cases. Yeah, it's shocking and sad. But I think it also bodes what we're talking about here. So many people go, well, Crohn's, colitis, they're autoimmune, genetic, idiopathic, or unknown cause conditions. Well, if they're increasing at this rate, we've gone up, doubled since the 90s, up 3,000% since the 1950s, there's obviously a cause. So your doctor's wrong. Let's just lay that on the table now. So let's talk about what these are then. I want to answer that question because it's an important conversation to have for early recognition. Because once you meet diagnostic criteria, you're not beyond the point of no return, but prevention is much, much easier than getting reactive when things are, almost too late. So we sort of have a classification of gut issues. We put them on a sliding scale. Now, your doctor, again, will tell you they're different conditions, different diagnoses. That's wrong. It's all the same spectrum. And think about it. Whether you've got the stomach flu, you've got IBS or Crohn's or colitis, severe inflammation and ulcers in your intestines. Your stomach has the same symptoms: gas, bloat, pain. constipation, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, increase, decrease appetite, blood mucus, whatever, bloat, acid reflux. It's all the same stuff. It's just louder in one condition. And this is really the defining space where we came into this and said these conditions are reversible, and we proved it hundreds of times over. So when we look at irritable bowel syndrome, it really is just, this is IBS. It's any symptom you might have, which is not perfect. Like, I'm bloated, I've got gas, I've got diarrhea, constipation, I eat and my stomach hurts right after, or I lose my appetite very quickly and I'm hungry again. These are all on the spectrum of IBS. You have irritable bowel syndrome. You're experiencing syndromes or symptoms of irritation within your intestines. That's it. It's as simple as that. It's a big spectrum. But then further along the path we go, the worse things get. And I often describe it like wearing a pair of shoes without socks, right? Where that heel rubs and gets red and blisters and bleeds. Then you develop ulcerations or inflammation. Now you have what's called colitis or ulcerative colitis, which is inflammation of the large intestine, which can have ulcers. And it comes in these long strips. We might call it proctitis, where just the lower rectum is inflamed 10, 12, 15 centimeters. Or you can have what's called pancolitis. The entire colon is inflamed. Then we have Crohn's disease, which is inflammation of your GI tract, anywhere from mouth to anus. Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small, large bowel. Even you can get perianal abscesses, so like your butt cheeks will have inflammation or sores on them. It can be anywhere. This is really the spectrum. A little bit of irritation, all the way to bleeding and ulcerations. And that's where we see IBS and IBD.
Yeah, I know a few people over the years, and I've had a few clients that have had either ulcerative colitis or some kind of colitis, and they have these awful experiences of like going to the toilet and 50 times a day, and the food that they put in their mouth looks the same in the toilet. Like there's just no digestion going on whatsoever. Yeah, or just the amount of blood that people lose, and people can get close to death from just simply not being able to absorb nutrition. And it can be a really scary disease.
It's terrifying. And I think so many people, we always have a name in medicine for everything. Everything's got a name. It's a condition, because then you can attach a pill and a patent. But you get these children who are under 5, 6 years old, under 10 years old. They're diagnosed with VEO-IBD, a new condition, very early onset inflammatory bowel disease. Of course, it's early onset. People are sicker than ever. We're getting diseases earlier than ever. So now we have a new label, which means we have a new drug and again, a new patent. But it's a scary disease because you go into your doctor, you're inflamed. And they say, yep, it's autoimmune, it's genetic, and there's nothing we can do. You'll be on medications the rest of your life. I've had people just like you, right? 50 plus bowel movements a day. I've had people with one every 2 to 4 weeks. And all they can do is manage their symptoms. But here's why it's crazy. Let me break it down for you very simply, Matty. If you go to your doctor and you step on a nail, right? That nail's going through your foot. You're like, doc, that nail really hurts. It's inflamed, it's swollen, it's infected. What do I do? Imagine they look at you and they're like, it looks really bad, Matty, but here's the deal. It's part of your DNA now. Just part of your body. It's bad luck. I'm going to give you numbing cream for the rest of your life. And if it doesn't take away the pain, I can cut off your foot.
That's a good analogy.
How insane, right? How insane would this conversation be? But you go to your doctor one day, you were perfectly healthy. The next, over a couple of weeks, days, or months, you're not. Inflammation in your bowels, ulcerations, sores, whatever. You go to your doctor, like, help me. They go, yep, it's just part of your body now. It's part of your DNA. It's bad luck. But here's some medication to manage your pain for the rest of your life. And if it doesn't work, I can cut out your bowels. It's just as crazy. But we accept this. And that's not healthcare. Your doctor's a drug dealer, man. He's not a clinician. And the problem is we need to recognize that whether it's a nail in your foot or inflammation in the bowel, inflammation is your body trying to heal you from something. We just need to ask what it's trying to heal you from. That alone already rules out this random condition. And if you want to go down this rabbit hole, we can walk through, but I'll prove to you it's not an autoimmune, genetic, or unknown cause condition. We got the data.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely want to walk down that rabbit hole, and especially because you mentioned the very early onset stuff, and even in I'm not that old at all, and even in my short career, I've been witness to it's like the diabetes is moving into the children, more cancers are moving into the children, and we just keep labeling people as either bad luck or you've got it in your family, so that's you're destined to have that outcome. But with the numbers going up and up and up and up, it seems ludicrous to me that there we're not looking again at the cause. It's like, well, actually, what caused it, rather than blaming genetics. And so, and I think the kids are a really good example, because in theory, they have no agency or choice over the life that they live per se, or the things they're exposed to. So what is causing this stuff? Why is it not autoimmune? Is it pesticides? Is it the air we're breathing in, flame retardants? Like, what are you finding?
It's all the above. Here's what we need to know. Humans only get sick. And this is 10 years of my career here in medicine. If you go back to paramedics, more like 13, 14 years. And here's what I've distilled down to 3 reasons why humans get sick. Number 1, toxins. So whether it's pesticides, heavy metals, mold, environmental toxin, VOCs, high levels of stress are toxic to your body due to the chemicals and hormone processes. High blood sugar is toxic. So it's some kind of toxin which inflames you that your body needs to recover from, remove, repair, etc. Number 2, deficiencies. Exercise, fresh air, sunlight, basic nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, right? These are the basics your body needs to thrive. And then if we're also dealing with microbial imbalances, so you're going to find yourself dealing with infections, parasites, fungus, yeast, some kind of overgrowth, viruses, whatever it is, or imbalances in bacteria that are native to your digestive system. Candida, healthy in small amounts, problematic in large amounts. Clostridium, vital to survival, immunity, the works, but in high amounts, it's highly infectious and inflammatory. So we have toxins, we have deficiencies, and we have microbes. That's why we get sick. No other reason. And what we're seeing now, since probably the late 1800s in the Industrial Revolution, and this is actually work that's been explored by Erica and Justin Sonnenberg from Stanford, is what's called generational dysbiosis. Now, they've shown it in mice, but it would take hundreds of years and frankly be unethical to do in people. But what we find is that over the generations, we're losing diversity in our bacteria. So consider, for argument's sake, great-grandmother had 1,000 microbes. Industrial Revolution hits. We got mercury, we have toxins, chemicals, the works put into our system as factories are growing. She gives birth to great-grandma, who now has 800 microbes. Now we're here, early 1900s, we got the introduction of penicillin and other medications, and boom, she gives birth to mom who has 600. All the way down to you and your kids who have 200 or 100, we've lost diversity. And just like a city with vacancy, something's going to fill that space eventually. And in our case, it's other microbes, it's invasive species, whatever else. Combine that with toxins, nutrient deficiencies, processed, refined foods, high stress environments, we have these dysbiotic states, which lead to these conditions that we now have that are inflammatory. I mean, back in the 1950s, there were 15 per 100,000 people in the USA diagnosed with some form of Crohn's or colitis. Now, there are arguments, well, it's an awareness thing. We've known about Crohn since the 1800s, right? We've seen that. We know even Dr. Salisbury, named the Salisbury steak, did the carnivore diet to treat Crohn. This is a thing that goes way back. Here we are today from 15 and 100,000 in the 50s. Today, it's 463 per 100,000. So that is a nearly 3,000% increase in bowel disease. So something's happening. And that's the far end of the spectrum, right? We're talking Crohn's, colitis, inflammation, diagnosable criteria. But now we have up to, we'll say data points, depends on what studies, but 60 to 72% of all North Americans are complaining of some kind of small scale IBS type symptom once a week. Gas, bloat, cramping, pain, diarrhea, constipation, etc. So again, up to 72% of the population is now stepping into a pair of shoes without socks. And that heel is starting to rub, and we have greater and greater numbers developing to Crohn's and colitis. So that's where it comes from. And I'll put a pause there because it's like drinking from a fire hose. When you're ready, we can go down to why it's not idiopathic, genetic, or autoimmune.
One thing that I thought of as you were sort of talking about the toxin side of things is the sort of this world we're in, and particularly, prolific in the USA and I guess North America as a whole, and Australia, but is like, this idea of this consumerist culture and Amazon and all of these super cheap products on Temu and stuff like that. Where I'm going with this is that nowadays, in regards to toxins, is that the houses that we live are so full of plastic, painted, artificial products that everything's off-gassing phthalates and BPAs and all of this kind of toxins that even the houses that we live in, even when the house is clean, we've got so many things and cheaply made stuff that isn't made of, timber or these sort of more natural products that are off-gassing all of these toxins. And a lot of people might be saying, well, I eat organic. And it's like, but also the house you're in or the mattress you lie on, might be covered in all of these modern day chemicals that, are making the products last longer or protecting the products or making them cheap to make. But the consequence is we're breathing them in every single breath.
Nonstop. And I'll throw an interesting plot twist at you here, Matty. If you look at where a lot of our products come from, Bangladesh, India, China, the chemical industrial capitals of the world, this is where we ask the question, is it the toxins and or something else? They have a fraction of a percent of the bowel disease cases that we have here in the different diseases, chronic inflammatory diseases, but they're exposed to the highest concentrations. So the question has to be asked, look at India. There's lots of trends right now with like Indian street food and all kinds of stuff popping up online. And maybe that's my algorithm. But what we're seeing is like, look at the exposure. Barefoot in the grass, people pooping in the streets. There's so much more exposure to what would be toxic microbes and all kinds of environmental issues on top of all the chemicals. Over here, we sanitize everything, we sterilize, we bleach our bloody food before it comes into market. Everything's cleaned. We live in highly sterile environments compared to what nature would have intended, or cities like, giant cities like Mumbai or somewhere would often have. So the question is it just the toxins, or is it a combination of toxins and a loss of our microbes and this lack of diversity, leaving us unable to maybe metabolize, clean, or fight back against them effectively?
Yeah, and I guess to kick that can down the road, my theory would be that the lack of diversity reduces our detoxification capacity of those particular toxins. But I'm curious, if we go with the North American sort of Western privileged world, the sort of story that you were telling before, where do we end up? And what comes to mind is like monocultured agriculture. Are we going to end up with monocultured humans?
Oh man, extinction, I think, is basically the next step. We are all screwed. And this is a conversation I've actually had with, like, if you know Dr. Austin Perlmutter, does a lot of work in the gut and functional medicine. And I asked him, I was like, do you think we're beyond the point of no return? He goes, yeah, most definitely. The problem is we're at a space where I think we've extincted so much of our microbial diversity that we may not be able to ever get it back. Now, that being said, who knows what the future holds? Different probiotics and different things. But in the studies that we can see testing, let's go back to hunter-gatherer tribes, kind of, we'll say, the epicenter of where, or the ideal that we'd like human beings to be in North America. We want them to be barefoot in the grass, pesticide-free, living on the land, picking up foods from the trees, the bushes, of what they get from animals. Right? And they'll slice up a goat and eat a raw kidney. So that's kind of the best case scenario for microbial diversity. They actually have microbes in their gut that would be highly infectious and dangerous to us because we don't have the balance of the community to tolerate it. It's like every ecosystem has a balance, right? We have police and baristas and school teachers, and there's some cities have prisons, but they have architecture built around to take these higher risk things, rehabilitation centers or whatever else. They have the architecture to keep these things in check from becoming a problem. Well, if you take a prison and an open range rehab facility for dangerous offenders and stick it in the middle of a town of 500 people, you're going to have a whole change of narrative in that city or that town. And that's kind of what happens with our bacteria. Once we start to introduce things that are so foreign and uncontrolled, or we don't have the ecosystems to regulate it, we have problems. And I think on a mass level, practically speaking, yes, in a petri dish, in a lab, maybe we'd see something better. But on a practical level, I think we maybe have gotten ourselves past the point of no return. And the question is, where is the ceiling? If we walk, because I don't want to leave you guys listening right now with like this depressive thing, oh, I'm screwed, I'm sick. But we may really realistically hit a ceiling. We are at a modern disease epidemic where people are sicker than before, diseases that never existed before, that we're seeing only in our countries, industrialized countries. So maybe in a perfect situation in a lab, we could go back. But the fact is, the world is moving en masse in one direction. And one of us at a time may not be able to keep up. You'll constantly be losing diversity. You'll constantly be covered in pesticides, VOCs, chemicals, unless you have the means, resources, or finances to put yourself in a bubble. So the question is now, what can we do to work back the clock and prevent what almost seems like an inevitability? Which I hate to say because I'm a hopeful dude, man. I'm blind optimism. But I just want to be prepared that the general population who doesn't do this for a living is facing a very real threat.
Yeah. So what happens if can we just like ban shoes and make people walk on the earth and do breath work when they're in different places to increase their biodiversity? And I assume that, the pesticides that go on even people that eat organic and fresh and healthy, the word organic doesn't mean that there's not some form of pesticide on the plants,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like even the people that are trying to be healthy are limited. But surely we can increase diversity. Maybe we can't get it back to where we were 1700s, but surely there's a lot of things we can do to increase that diversity.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's the thing. This is where the hope sits. We can do more than we're doing right now to be better than we are. Can we get back to textbook, picture perfect, barefoot in the grass hunter-gatherer? Never again. Society will never regress unless there's a nuclear holocaust. Then you're dealing with radiation anyway. And so what we have to look at here is the practical things. Yes, you can spend more time outside, go barefoot in the grass. According to the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, indoor air is one of the top 5, if not top 3, largest pollutants to human beings. So open your windows, right? Go barefoot in the grass where you can. Like there's little things we can do. Stop drinking. Like the amount of people, Matty, who come to me with Crohn's or colitis or gut issues. And I'm like, how often do you drink? Well, once or twice a week. What does that look like? 1 to 10 beers and a few shots? I'm like, man, you're nuking your gut every week. It's like, don't come to me, man, and tell me you need help with your gut if you're not willing to stop drinking and smoking and eating junk food and fast food 5 times a week. These are real conversations I have. There's a lot you can do that you're already not doing. Beyond that, to optimizing, that's when the rubber meets the road into how far can we really get you versus being proactive and or playing defense. But you're absolutely right. We have light years of progress we can make. It's just, are we willing to do it because it's inconvenient or a little bit hard?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that people discover and often discover too late in regards to their own health journey is that they do all of these little things that are like, they go through these phases where it's like, I'll take these supplements and I'll do a little bit of this and I'll eat this fun food that Instagram told me about for a few weeks. And it's not until they end up maybe 50s, 60s, and they're severely, morbidly obese, all sorts of gut issues. It's just normal for them to, not have a normal bowel movement. It's been like that for 30 years. So, and all these things have crept up really slowly over the years that this is just their normal. And then they sort of look at the extreme measures of, surgery and getting parts of their bowel removed. And that's happened to different people in my family as well, making those choices for various reasons. But, people often don't realize, or they get to the point of what feels like for them no return, and they have to make these major decisions of bariatric surgery or doing these things to their gut, which interestingly usually just cause more problems to their absorption and their gut health.
Almost always, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, and I'm often, I work with people that have got challenges with weight a lot, and I'm often on this mountain of like shouting, like, the surgery and the Ozempic and all of those things almost always will give you more problems on the other side.
Yes.
So like all of that sort of to preface this question around like, how can we start to change culture or change behavior? Do people really need to suffer beyond belief before they'll change?
Some people, I believe, do. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Here's what I'll say, Matty. I want to hit you with both the doom and gloom and the hard reality versus what's possible. You guys here, 400 plus episode into the How to Not Get Sick and Die podcast, listening to this, you're the 1%. It is rare that this many people are willing to do what's hard or inconvenient. We live in a world of conveniences. And I got a spreadsheet of ongoing names of people I'm in constant communication with. I'm looking at it right now. And over the last 2 months alone, I've had a conversation with 239 different people. And about like, I need help with my gut. What do? I want to schedule a call. Like, get me some help. Probably 25 to 30% of them, I have them all redlined here on my chart. I just nixed because they come to me. I need help. Please help me. I'm desperate. What's going on? They leave me on red. Don't get back to me. Oh, sorry, been busy. I'll get back to you after work. I'm like, you could text while you're sitting on the toilet. It's just not a priority. And what I've realized, the reality is that as human beings, most of us are sick because we do it to ourselves, because we're not willing to get uncomfortable. We prioritize the wrong things. And a lot of us are led down the wrong path of being, well, my doctor said this. For 30 years, I've been told one thing. And now here's some idiot Josh Deck on a podcast saying it's not an autoimmune condition. Who is he? But the point is, a lot of us aren't willing to come out of our box, to go against what we already know. And pain is comfortable. So many people, look at people who come from traumatic environments. They know stress, they know chaos. They get into a healthy relationship with like a good partner and they torpedo it because on a subconscious level, chaos was safe because it's familiar. And so we put ourselves back into these old patterns where we don't want to change our social circles. Well, my friends drink, so I'm going to drink with them. I want to be with my friends. That's your choice. Get new friends or get a glass of water and pretend it's vodka, like whatever you want to do. So a lot of us are sick by choice. But what we can do is grab that reality and say, if this is my choice, then my outcomes are because of me, and I'm going to choose the hard stuff. Like pick your hard, right? You need to make time for your wellness now, or you will be forced to make time for your sickness later. So pick your hard. Does it mean getting up half an hour earlier and, walking around the block a few times? Does it mean, you know what, I'm real hungry, but I'm going to put off my hunger pangs for another 30, 40 minutes while I make dinner instead of ordering from Skip the Dishes? Like there are little things that we do that sound so absurdly easy, but that's the basic for the 99%. For those of you who are far along the road, like I'm doing everything right and I'm still sick, this is where the conversation needs to happen as to what.
Yeah, I know that I guess with this sort of change in mindset that needs to happen, or this change in perspective, or whatever it is that needs to happen for people in order to get them to a place of taking action. And I know with the work that I've done primarily with sort of, I guess, emotional binge overeating, eating disorders, is I see a lot of parallels with gut issues, as you would expect, because of the dietary choices of that cohort of people. Maybe not as severe as you deal with, and I'd probably just refer to you now. But my question is, do you see this on your end of the conversation, this interplay between challenges with being able to regulate food, emotional binge or overeating, and I guess the gut issues that come out of sort of that behavior?
Yeah, if I'm understanding the question correctly, what you're asking is the people I'm seeing as a coach who are really severe along the spectrum, how much of that is because they're doing it to themselves?
Yeah, through diet and I guess sugar addiction or inability to regulate, their intake of fast food or, easy foods, stuff that they can order on an app versus
Yeah. I
cooking.
mean, what I'll say is that in the Crohn's colitis space, there are people who are doing it to themselves. Straight up, I'm like, change your diet, fix these things, and you'll be better. Like you're 100 pounds overweight, you're eating Chick-fil-A 3 times, 4 times a week, you're drinking on the weekends. This one's on you. Like, don't ask me for help. You take care of the basics. On the other hand, most of the people, the 99% who do come to see me for help, they've tried every diet, every pill, every supplement. The Crohn's Colitis Foundation actually did a study and found that people on average spend upwards of $30,000 in their first year just guessing, figuring it out, right? And that's US dollars. That's like 3 million Canadian or Aussie dollars because the exchange rate sucks. And so it's devastating. And they've tried it all. And what they need is a root cause, an investigation like Sherlock Holmes to go, here's what's causing your problem. These health foods you're eating are actually working against you, like bone broth. If you got IBD, man, stop. That's going to drive the histamine pathways because it's a high histamine food, which is often implicated in bowel disease. And many people can just drop histamines and get a 20 to 50% relief overnight. So there's a lot of investigative work on that side, but there are people who are doing it to themselves. But from what I see in my practice, for as specialized as we are on this end of severity, like we help the people who have tried it all and aren't getting help. That's who comes to see us. And a lot of them are already eating immaculately. And so I don't want to blame them when it's not their fault. But if you're listening, you know if it's you or not.
Well, I mean, going into that is if these people are eating perfectly, taking all of the supplements, but it's equally not an idiopathic thing, what's going on there?
I think there's 2 topics we should cover. And let's go down the first, what I call the 4 stages of autoimmune disease development. And then we can get into the why it's not idiopathic, genetic, or autoimmune. I think this might tie it into nicely. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it then. So the 4 stages of how we get into what we'll call autoimmune disease basically start like this. Let's go the Crohn's colitis space. You get an infection. All right, that's acute. That's stage 1. Now, if this was a cold or a flu, you're over it in a couple of days or a week and you're fine. But consider you get an infection, your gut starts to get inflamed, right? You're infected, you're inflamed, it's trying to heal you. And then it doesn't go away. After a couple of months, you're like, this is real bad. Like something's happening. Go to your doctor, like, yep, it's been more than a year with medical intervention. There's no improvement. Now it's classified as chronic. So you have your acute stage that doesn't go away, the nails in the foot. And it's inflamed and it's infected, it's not going away. Now we call it chronic. The problem is now you're trying to treat it, you're trying to put creams on it, you're trying to whatever, take these pills, supplements, diet, and it's not getting any better. Now we have what's called, well, the Crohn's Colitis Foundation and the Mayo Clinic and other organizations have declassified it as autoimmune. They're calling it immune mediated. So you have these hyperactive immune responses now, right? So they're just overdone. It's like you're stressed out, stuck in traffic at work, there's a fender bender, and then you come home and your baby's screaming and crying. You're like, he's going to punch something. That is your immunomodulated or your immune mediated inflammatory responses. They're hyperactive, they're overreacting, and they're stressed. So you've gone from acute, it couldn't handle itself. It lasted a long time. It's now been classified as chronic. Now, stage 3, it's immune mediated. But here's the problem. This keeps going. These hyperactive responses go and go, just like you carrying a heavy physical weight or emotional weight. Eventually you crash. So does your immune system. Then we see what's called immunodeficiency or autoimmunity, where your immune system just craps out. Other arms of your immune system, so to speak, take over. Your other pathways just aren't doing their job. Now we have these chronic, what could be truly autoimmune diseases, or just, again, immune deficiency like CIRS, we call chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So these are sort of the 4 stages. Most people, the 99%, I use that term a lot, 99% because it's true, they're in stage 1, 2, or 3, which means you can come back from it. Once you're in stage 4, right now with the tech we have, you are ceiling. Now, we are working with some pretty cool stuff. I can't talk about it yet, but there may be hope in the near future with a new drug that we're trying to get some trials done for Crohn's colitis with this new drug that may actually cure, capital C, cure this immune deficiency. But it's a ways away. If you're listening, you got $1 million and you want to donate to this trial we're trying to run, reach out and we'll get that rolling. That'll be great. We'll make sure you're part of it. So that's our stages. We have acute, we have chronic, immune mediated, and then immune deficiency or autoimmune. And so what happens is we have to figure out of these 3 things we talked about, right? Why you're sick: the toxin, the deficiency, or the microbes. And this will roll into the fact that we talked about, unless you want to stop me, Matty. I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent now.
No, go.
All right, let's do it. Off to the races. So we say it's idiopathic, right? This means unknown cause. We say it's genetic, and we say it's autoimmune. That's what conventional literature is taught. I call bullshit on all 3. And here's why. To say it has unknown causes, I just think we're not looking in the right places. We just identified all the toxins in the lifestyle. We identified the food, the fakeness of our food, which leads to nutrient deficiencies because the soil's depleted, all these fertilizers, all these chemicals. There's 20,000 chemicals, pesticides on our food approved for use in North America. In the 90s, there was 900. Well, guess what's doubled since then? Bowel disease, right? We have all these issues we know are compounding. We know we have loss of bacteria. So here's all these causes we're not looking at. And we actually have GI doctors, like gastroenterologists, physicians who specialize in these diseases, saying, eat whatever you want. Food has no bearing on your gut health. Senior GIs, I kid you not, Matty, who
That's
still
ridiculous.
don't believe, more ridiculously, they don't believe the microbiome exists. You're a gut specialist telling your patient the microbiome is still just a theory? Like, I hear this stuff all the time. So to say it's idiopathic, it comes from poor education, which leads to bad dogma. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So that's number 1. That's the leg taken down. It's not unknown cause. Number 2, we say it's genetic. Impossible. Genes do not cause these diseases. There is correlation in your genetics, right? Where you have this NOD2 or this, what is IRGMs or HLA genes, all these different genes that make you prone to certain infections, but they don't work in a vacuum. Your genes are like a volume knob. It will turn up and get really bad or turn down and get really quiet and gentle and easy. But what's influencing your genes? Your stress, your toxins, your nutrients. There's a study called nutrigenomics, which is how nutrients influence your genes. We know toxins and microplastics and all these things are influencing genetic expression. Chronic stress responses, EMFs, cellular Wi-Fi signals are messing with our cells and our genetic expression. So our genes are being forced to express loudly. So we have these genes correlated to Crohn's colitis, which determine, your immune responses on a mucous membrane level. They determine gut bacterial balances, how much we react to certain infections, how we repair our gut lining. Well, these genes are being influenced to react poorly. You're going to have excess infections, excess immune responses, high levels of inflammation. You're not going to detoxify. That's where your genes come into play. They're being exploited. So we can't blame our genes. We blame everything else. The same things we're calling idiopathic are what's causing your genes. So 2 of our 3 legs are now gone. It's not idiopathic or unknown. It's not genetic. And here's my favorite one. It's not autoimmune in the vast majority of cases. Again, I'll pull the 99% card. Here's why. For it to be autoimmune, you have to have what's called autoantibodies, meaning these antibodies are attacking your own tissues. Think of it this way. Antibodies are one thing. Those are fine, right? We create antibodies to the flu. An antibody is a special soldier. So you are in medieval times and you have a castle. And there's a bad guy, a bunch of foot soldiers walking up to your castle. You're like, I'm going to kill that guy. So I've now invented the first archer to snipe him with an arrow. That's my antibody. It becomes an autoantibody when the archer turns around and shoots the king. Now it's attacking its own people. You have countless hundreds of checks and balances, even cells designed to kill archers that attack the king. Your body doesn't inherently attack itself. And we see in IBD about 70%, up to 70% of colitis or ulcerative colitis patients have any antibodies at all, let alone autoantibodies attacking you. Crohn's, it's like 60 to 70%, depends on who you ask. But I'm challenging a theory right now. Again, if anybody's listening, you're a researcher, you got access to a lab, reach out. I want to run a trial. And I just need help because I'm not a molecular biologist. There's an antibody. This is my favorite one. It's called P-ANCA. Little p, capital A-N-C-A. It's present in 70% of colitis cases. And this is where we say it's autoimmune. All these antibodies that we see, they attack things that are made against fungus, ibuprofen, high stress, methotrexate or Emuran, which are drugs used to treat IBD, create these same antibodies. So to say it's autoimmune is nonsense, but consider a theory I'm working on. And again, please, man, reach out. If you guys are here and this, like, I got a lab, I want to run this test, we'll do this together. This antibody called P-ANCA, it stands for perinuclear anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody. What this means is your body's created an antibody to attack the neutrophil. It's one of your 5 types of white blood cells. This neutrophil is what's responsible for these markers your doctors test like calprotectin. It produces it like cars idling in a parking lot producing exhaust. The more neutrophils, the more calprotectin you produce. They say, look how high it is. So because of these excess white blood cell activity, your body creates an antibody and says, kill the white blood cells. That's sort of the theory. But consider this. Neutrophils eat like Pac-Man, right? They gobble, gobble. It's called phagocytosis. If we're eating foreign invaders, foreign pathogens, toxins, proteins, something that is not biologically normal, because we're living in a world that's not biologically compatible with us anymore. What if this neutrophil ate something, but it can't digest it? So your body said, well, I better create an antibody to attack what's inside the belly of that neutrophil. So the question is it attacking your own cells, or are your cells caught in the crossfire because it's attacking what's inside of it? That alone would completely disrupt what we believe about autoimmune disease to be true. Right? It could flip autoimmunity on its head and maybe prove it doesn't exist in the way we think it does. So for you science nerds, if you're listening, here's the experiment I propose. Please reach out to me. I'm not kidding. I would like to take this P-ANCA antibody and stick it in a petri dish with some neutrophils from somebody with IBD. Right? Same antibody, same person, same IBD. And I want to cut the neutrophil in half, spill its guts, and see what that antibody attacks. If it attacks the white blood cell, I'm wrong. If it attacks its contents, I'm right, and it's not autoimmune. And let's apply this to other antibodies. Can we dismantle autoimmunity, assuming your body's not attacking itself?
Yeah, that's a great theory. I really like that too. And obviously, either the body has registered that it's there somewhere, or that neutrophil is putting out some kind of signal to attract, maybe it's a distress signal that's attracting, the attacks on the neutrophils. But I really like that idea. And I would love to see that study done too.
I would love it. Right? I was advised, like, well, keep it hush. This is cool research. I'm like, yeah, I want the Nobel Prize. And I'm like, no, the world needs this. Yes, I'd love the Nobel Prize for this one if it goes through and like, yeah, it doesn't exist. But I don't have the resource to do it myself. So on this podcast, I'm shouting out to the world, reach out. If you know a guy who knows a guy or knows a girl or whatever, let me know, man. We're going to run this study together.
Yeah, I might know some people that are worth talking to. I need to get out the old Rolodex, which is really just on my computer these days. But
I wish it was like one of those old flip books,
Same.
But Control F is too handy to give away. So
yeah, completely. No, that's great, man. I love how much you've thought about this. And I guess, because I think one of the issues is, firstly, in modern medicine, it takes far too long for the information to go from research discovery to bedside and to actually helping people.
17 years on average.
Yeah, which is crazy. And that's, you could argue that it's 17 years for the proactive doctors that go and get education and stay in the loop rather than these people that are like, microbiome is a theory. It's like, what rock have you been living under?
Yeah, no. And to say food doesn't change your gut health at all.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to tell me that what I put in my gut doesn't affect my gut? Like, come on. Yeah, it's absurd. And at a point, it's willful ignorance and even hubris. You know, medicine is full of it. We've got some amazing stories. And this one's not my credit. It's Curtis, who works with me. He's been my mentor for a long time, and we recently joined forces. But this woman came in, severe colitis, like spontaneous bleeding, Mayo score 3 on her scope, so really severe. For years, 2013, she was diagnosed. Doctors like, man, we got to remove this thing, cut this out, like you're going to die. Mm-hmm. She came in 16 weeks, Matty. She got another colonoscopy right before and right after the program. And this isn't a sales pitch, I'm just telling you. 16 weeks. It was perfect, healthy pig. She had one little spot that a doctor's like, oh, okay. Never answered a phone call, never took a text, never replied to an email. And this happens. Hundreds of cases like this we've reversed for Crohn's and colitis. I've had one doctor in my entire career reach out. Shout out to Dr. Salibi at Carolina Holistic Medicine, because this dude sent me an email. It's like, let's get on a Zoom call, walk me through what you did. It happened to be a patient of his. I now lecture at his medical academy. I teach them, they teach me. And it's this amazing, cohesive work we're able to do because he doesn't have an ego about medicine. He just wants people to get better. And of the 400 plus cases, that was one. That's all it took. And now we're spreading the message all over the world.
Oh, that's so good, man. And it's very nice to come across medical professionals, especially in this societal hierarchy where doctors are at the top. You know, it's nice to get some doctors
that are better than I am. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice to have those, meet people that don't have that ego attached and are just interested in healing and helping people and collaborating with whoever can help get them there. But so that's kind of refreshing. But I guess on the other side of refreshing doctors, is there, like, do you deal with patients that are sort of torn? I say this coming out of a background of cancer and helping people on the nutritional side of getting diet right so that can help their cancer journey as well, is that often I find that people that come from their doctor or they've got cancer 3 times and this is time number 4, and they're finally open to a holistic conversation. Do you find that people that talk to you or come to you are like, they're wrestling with this idea of like, oh, the doctor says this, and I'm wrestling with this idea that he's possibly wrong, and I've got to go with somebody else that's like a nutritionist or a coach, or because I see that a lot with cancer patients, is they're wrestling, even though they've got the evidence of like, I've relapsed 3 times, my life is horrible.
Clearly not helping, yeah.
Yeah, it's clearly, but it's just this like societally embedded belief or of the authority of the word of a doctor.
All the time. And I get it. And I try to sympathize with that. But also, like, let's use our heads, right? You've gone to your doctor for decades and they keep shoving you with medication and you're not getting better. You spent multiple tens of thousands. These insurance companies are billed up to $20,000 a month for some of these medications like Remicade and Rinvoq and whatever else. And because there's so much dogma attached to it, there's so much hope and fear. Primarily, it's like, well, I'm going to go back to my doctor because that's what we know. That's what we're told. That's what we've been ingrained with and indoctrinated with. We can go all the way back to Rockefeller medicine back in the early 19s. I'm sure you guys know that story and see where it's corrupted anyways. But I see this all the time. Like, well, okay, let me check with my doctor. Or they come in and start working with us. They're getting better. They're 2-3 months in. They're like, man, my symptoms are gone 80-90%. I've been with my doctor for a decade. It's amazing. So, okay, here's the next phase. Oh, let me check with my doctor. Why? What's he going to do for you? What's she going to do? And so we do get attached to this because, again, I think it's just dogma and it's fear and it's uncertainty rather than just using our brain and going, okay, well, wait a minute. Let me distill the information for myself. Put aside my fears, put aside what I currently think I know or understand and see what works. Let's look at the evidence. And that to me is just as good. That's healthcare, not sick care. And there's a big difference there. You know, when your doctor's masked your symptoms for decades and you're finally at a place where there's a solution to go, wait a minute, I want to get to the root cause. Let me check with my doctor. They're not trained on root cause. They would have done that a decade ago, but they didn't. And this is where we have to step back and just put all these human emotions aside and try to just think logically through a very emotionally charged situation.
How did you get into this? Did you have your own gut health challenges or was it just something that really piqued your interest and you got into it?
Did I ever have my own gut issues, man? I was a train wreck. My mom went through it. She had 2 bowel resections, emergency surgery, like
Wow.
almost died from sepsis. She had her gallbladder removed, mesh put in. My dad's had messy gut issues his entire life. And I started getting them when I was, preteens, probably 11, 12. And my gut popped off. I mean, I was 10 bowel movements a day a lot of the time, very sensitive gut, food sensitivities, undigested food in my late teens, early 20s. Mid 20s, things hit an all-time low. And a lot of it was my fault. I mean, looking back, I was in my mid 20s, right? I was in personal training. I left paramedics, became a personal trainer, and I was eating macros, not counting chemicals. I was counting calories. So I'd eat Fruit Loops for dinner and all kinds of junk. So I was like, oh, I hit my macros today. I'm fine. And I torpedoed my gut. I was on anabolic steroids as a strength athlete. I'm not a big dude, man. I'm 5'9", maybe 180 pounds if I'm really diligent. I was 215. I was juiced up. I was huge. I
Whoa.
couldn't wipe my own butt because my lat cramped. Yeah, I was awesome. And so I jacked up my liver. I had all this junk into my system. I had acne. And this was coming from my teens anyway, but I just made the issues worse. My whole back wasn't an inch not covered in acne, up my neck, down my wrists and forearms. I had acne. My lymphatic system was clogged up. I got to a point where I was probably 15 plus bowel movements a day with 10-minute transit times. I'd eat and I'm looking at undigested food in the toilet. I had blood. I had mucus, mood swings, severe anxiety, depressive episodes. I was nuts, man. Like, I'm surprised my wife didn't leave me. God bless her for sticking through this whole thing and seeing me through to this, because I was so depressed. I had planned my suicide. Like, I
Oh,
was in
man.
Home Depot holding this tube in my hands, and I was like, I was a paramedic. I know what carbon monoxide poisoning does. The only reason I didn't go through with it, Matty, I was afraid I'd fail and just be a vegetable.
Yeah.
That's how bad my brain was. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my job. I love my dog. I love all the things that rhyme with that. Life's great. I was never depressed. My brain was just so inflamed. My brain chemistry, 90% of our neurotransmitters come from your gut. My factory was on fire, and I was wondering why it wasn't outputting like it should. I had candida, my mouth, through down my gut, everywhere, through my colon. I had parasites. I had inflammation. I had holes in my gut. My house was on fire. I'm not depressed, dude. I feel amazing. I'm euphoric nonstop. I'm hyper optimistic. I'm a little crazy probably sometimes. I was never actually depressed, but I was diagnosed with depression because it was a symptom I was experiencing from a highly inflamed dysfunctional gut. And so I went through it all. I've been there. I never got diagnosed, never went to the doctor, but I got help. And Curtis, who's working with me on my team, he was a pivotal part of that, taught me everything I know, minus, on top of my schooling, he built on that. So we have an amazing team here, and we've all been through it. Curtis has a wild story I won't tell you, but I'll let him do that one day if you talk to him. But he's been through it. He messed up his own gut through a lot of things and bad life choices too. We've seen it. We've been there. We've done it. And we know it's reversible. I've got people coming in to see me, man. We did a spot on Know the Cause, national TV, our international. And this guy, Louis, 17 years. His family, they planned his funeral 3 times. And
Wow.
he's perfect, perfectly healthy. It's been probably 3-4 years now since I saw him last. And he's not, I checked in with him a few months back. It's great. No gut issues. Just came back from Greece, traveling, eating, drinking, living his life. So it can be done. You just have to know what is causing your issues.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate that vulnerability, and sorry to hear that you got to such a dark place.
Yeah, it sucked, but we're great now. And that's the thing is I'm happy to talk about it because there's an end in sight. No matter where you are on the spectrum of illness, wellness, disease, mental health, it's all connected. It all comes back to your gut, And I think if practitioners can't talk about it openly, and I'll be honest with you, Matty, it's only been the last couple of months I've openly talked about my suicidal ideation when I was sick. And I've been doing this for a decade. I've only recently realized I need to talk about this and get uncomfortable. And I had the pleasure of speaking recently at an addiction recovery event and all kinds of stuff. Because through that, I also dealt with addiction because my brain was so messed up looking for a high. And
Yeah.
we can get better. There is a road through this, whatever your state of disease is. You just have to know what's causing it because your body isn't biologically wired to be sick.
Yeah. And I would even add on to that the entire gamut of psychiatric challenges or psychological challenges people have, being either a consequence of poor gut health with the gut-brain connection, or even just a direct consequence of the nutrients we're putting into the blood supply that then flow to the brain. And I've had recently a couple of psychiatrists on, and we've talked about that. And I think there are a lot of experiences, physical health problems, but also mental health problems that can absolutely be associated to toxins, deficiency, the diet, all the stuff we've talked about.
Well, consider 33% of the metabolites in your blood are byproducts of microbes. So if you have a bunch of highly inflammatory, what we call opportunistic microbes producing toxins, they're getting into your blood. If you've got leaky gut, you've got leaky brain. That blood-brain barrier opens up, these toxins get in, it inflames you, it changes your brain chemistry. It leads to all kinds of diseases. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, comes back to your gut much of the time.
Yeah. Man, where can everybody find you online? You're obviously awesome. You know your stuff. You've got your own lived experience as well. So where can everybody find you? Where are we sending them?
Oh, geez. If you want one spot to reach everything, it's gutsolution.ca. That's all singular, gutsolution.ca for Canada. I've got a podcast out, Reversible. That's reverse able, ABLE. Great on paper. Like, oh, reverse able, I can do it. Terrible to have to say, but great to look at. And it's all about the gut. We're 160 some episodes in, some of the world's most famous doctors, physicians, and specialists, plus myself rambling every week. And I recently did start another podcast that I just republish all my lectures and talks I do on my Facebook group. It's called Reversing Crohn's and Colitis Naturally. You can find that on all platforms, access it on YouTube, wherever you want. But if this is a lot to track and follow, you can find me on social media at joshdech.health. But save you the trouble, go to gutsolution.ca. You can find links to social podcasts. Everything's all there, totally free.
Awesome. And because there's so much that you know, and I have no idea where you're going to take this, but what is one piece of health information you wish more people knew about?
To never accept your diagnosis. It's a stupid word. It means nothing. It's a categorization of symptoms where you attach a label, or we can attach a drug, or we can attach a patent. And this, again, traces all the way back to Rockefeller medicine in the early 1900s, where they published the Flexner Report and completely wiped out all natural herbs, remedies, sound frequency healing, all that stuff. A diagnosis means nothing. It's just a term to use for a state of being that matches enough symptoms to give you a word. Doesn't mean anything. Every diagnosis is going to be reversible, especially those that came up out of the blue over time. Like if you're diagnosed with like cystic fibrosis or you're born with spina bifida, I'm sorry, that's a terrible place to be. It is what it is. But we call a functional diagnosis, Crohn's, colitis, IBS, acid reflux, GERD, gallstones, whatever it is. These are largely fully reversible conditions. And if you take that home and take it with you, you'll never accept a diagnosis ever again. And you'll find yourself seeking real answers rather than Band-Aid solutions.
Fantastic. I support that statement through and through. So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we can do it again at some point in the future. But thanks for a good show.
And Matty, thanks so much for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. See you later.